In this last texturing video, we are going to kind of finish off what we started. As far as material wise, we're going to paint this cushion, and then we're going to do some of the keys, just to kind of give you an idea of a little bit of taste of each material that we had set out to create. So when we're looking at the cushion, I want to go with this kind of big, fluffy pattern. I found a couple of different antique fabric patterns. Here's a stylized hand-painted texture where it has a lot of that kind of, you can see it's a lot of this kind of swooshiness going on, where you have the quilted diamonds with the swooshiness. And here's another example. It's kind of the color palette I'm looking for, something along this color palette meets this one, which I kind of have that over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that reference to the side, and I want to actually come into my 2D view. I'm going to turn on my wireframe so I can see what I'm doing a little better. And I want to start off, I think I know this is going to be the middle, so I want to start off there. I'm going to go ahead and open up my cloth material, and I want to go and just open up a new paint layer. In this paint layer, currently I'm not sure what color it is, but let's see. Okay. Yeah, this color I want to make it a little bit more vibrant. And I want to pick the color, and we'll pick something that is right along here. It might also push it up quite a bit. Give it a lot more pop. So this is kind of my bright end, right? And so I know that I want something that is going to be roughly about this large here. So what I might do here, I'm going to move this size up a little bit. I think it's kind of hurt me. Oh, okay, I see. I currently have this still on a brush. I'm going to go my basic soft brush. Change it to that. And once I change to basic soft brush, I'm going to have to drop the opacity back down, and the size back down. Okay, there you go. So I'm just holding shift. I'm going to make this diamond, just kind of get a concept of how big I want this diamond to be. Yeah, I think that looks about what I'm going for. And for the time being, I can just go ahead and draw in here. I want it to be, so I'm just going to start off by drawing, maybe something like, well, no, maybe just to go ahead and draw something along there. So this is kind of a challenge sometimes to really know exactly how large to make some of this stuff. So I'm just right now kind of winging it, to be honest. I know that, oops. So I'm just going to draw this piece right here, and this will go right about there. So I'm just trying to make some uniform diamonds through here. As see, they don't always end up looking exactly diamond-esque, perhaps. I do know that this will have to go all the way down there. So sometimes you get a little bit of a weirdness to it, and that's perfectly fine, because we can always come back here and we can redraw any of this that we feel necessary. So I think that should be okay. So this will go down here and then back up through this way, maybe about right there. And let's see, this will go, I guess that'll go maybe about here. So I'm just kind of drawing in where I think this diamond pleated pattern should go. And then what I'm going to do once I'm done with that, I'm going to start to draw on these big like buttons. So I'm just using my really bright pink. I'm drawing some big buttons. Just along the ways. Now I don't know if I want to necessarily draw a button on the actual seam. I can draw on this inner seam, but I'm not going to draw on anything on the outside of this seam right here. I'm going to just only limit it to the seams on the inside right here. So I'm going to tumble around. I think that's okay, those buttons where they are. Yeah, I think I'm okay with all this. So now what I want to do is now I have some of this made up. I'm actually going to come through here and again, I want to color pick. So hit the right click on my palette or my screen here, and then once you color pick, I'm going to actually shift this down a little bit. I want to move it to more maroon. So you see we have that darker look. I might move the opacity up just a hair. There you go. So I'm going to start to kind of trace out this button. And each one of these buttons I'm going to trace out a little bit, just to give it a little bit of a shadow underneath what I believe the button should be going. So you see here we have a little bit of shadow. And this is a lot of kind of back and forth. You're gonna be jumping between the light and color, or light and dark scheme quite a bit. So I want to pick a direction the light's coming from. Kind of how we talked about the last video. And now we do understand the light will be coming straight down. Oops, let me go ahead and do that. So we do know this light will be coming straight down on it. But let's go ahead and decide which direction we really want it to be coming from, because I want it to be down and angled. So I think I want it to be angled, let's say here. So what that's going to mean for me, and actually maybe more like here. So what that means for me is this section here is going to catch light, because it's kind of puffy, remember? And this section here on the back, on the bottom side, will not catch light. And this section here will have just random spikes of light and dark. So remember, we're going this top here, that section will have light, and then the bottom section will not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pick this color again, so we have a nice deep color. I might make this brush a little bit bigger. And right now I'm just going to kind of draw in some generic lighting. So I'm going to start to just really loose, kind of draw in some lighting along these bottom halves, like right along here. And if you go into the white area, that's perfectly fine. We are not really too concerned, because that light area is more or less just kind of our guideline. Just kind of remind us where we want to focus on hitting, and we're gonna come back in a moment and start to kind of flesh out a little bit more. Okay, so that's happening here. Now, something to also keep in mind is on these sides along here, outside this kind of outer border, those sides will be in shadow a little bit more. So you could, right now we don't need to necessarily worry about it, but I could come in here with a bigger brush, maybe a little bit more opacity, and I could just throw in a couple, skips of shade there, something like that. So all I'm doing is I'm just holding shift and just throwing a little bit of shade around. So as you can see already, it's starting to get this illusion of depth. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this brush, or this opacity, a little bit lower. My mouse is kind of giving up. There you go. So I want to just make sure I get all these sides into kind of the shadows like we want. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to just pick colors. So like I'm going to use my eyedropper. I'm going to just select a color right along that threshold. And what I can do by doing that, because I have such a soft brush on, it's going to pick a color kind of in between the two colors. And that's going to allow me to soften it up a little bit. If it gets a little bit too light, then I can come back and just select the same from the bottom. So I'll pick a darker color, like so. So it's a lot of back and forth there between light and dark colors. So I want to do a little bit of that. And I just really want it to be a nice smooth transition between the colors. And it can be very organic. It doesn't have to be like super procedural. It's kind of just organic. You want to just really convince the viewer that they are seeing different levels of the cloth. Like some of the cloth bulging up, some it's pushing back, some it's hidden. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in here with a little bit of that white, and I'm going to make sure to bring the opacity down quite a bit. So let's put something like 12. Let's put even lower than that. Let's go to 3 is fine. And I'm just going to start to kind of pop out some of that other areas that I want to have raised up, because it's going to be raised due to the pleated fabrics. So I'm going to raise up some of those areas with the lighter color. Remember, light's going to catch more light, dark's going to catch less light. Therefore, it's going to give you the illusion of one's pushing out, one's pushing in, or at least one's hidden from the light, one's shining towards the light. So I'm going to now bring this size down a little bit more. I'm going to bring the opacity up a little bit more. I want to now start to paint in some of these deeper areas. So I'm going to go something a little bit more purple, a little deeper. And I want to start to just draw in some of these areas here. I might come in here with a little bit to get underneath the buttons, just a hair, to really kind of convince the viewer that this is indeed a button, and that it is, the button itself is hiding parts of kind of the fabric. Make that a little bit bigger, because right now it's a little too sharp, so I want to make it a little bigger, so therefore it's a larger radius, or larger kind of shadow cast. And then because I make it bigger, I also want to make it a little bit lower opacity. Okay. So like I said, this is a lot of patience. I know it's sometimes hard to, to resist the urge just to simply drag and drop the material on there. Believe me, that's a very common urge, especially in people who are just getting started. It's very easy to just drop materials on there that look really great, but we need to make sure we are learning how to do it ourselves properly before we start just dropping materials on there. So now what I'm going to do, now I have this kind of layout a little bit, I want to start to blend in some of these sharp shadows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a color kind of in between. So I can right click. I'm going to go down to my color. I want to take this little eyedropper. I want to try to find something right in between where it's dark and light, and that kind of in between there. So there you go. And I can soften it up now. See how much softer that looks? So I'm just going to soften up all these little kind of harsh edges. And that's just, again, to kind of make this soft look, or this like inviting, cushiony look that we all want so much. Okay. Now, it's not to say we can't have a few hard edges to really kind of create that illusion of like really jetting a certain direction. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my opacity way down. The size, I'm going to drop it down a bit. And I just want to, let's drop it down even more, just like this. I do want just a little corner of each, make these buttons pop a little bit more. Because right now they are kind of hidden in the shadow a little bit, so I'm gonna make sure to really push these up and out. I might even want to come in here with the hardness. Bring the hardness up a bit. I also might make this a little bit more pink, just like that. I can also bring up the opacity. There you go. That's starting to look a little bit more vibrant, almost too vibrant. So maybe I come back in here with a little bit lighter, washed out pink version of it. Okay, that's good. Now, I mean, I could keep doing this probably for all eternity, really. But what I'm going to do now is I want to start to paint in just a little bit of the of these kind of cloth swooshes, as I would call them. So the swooshes, really, there's kind of three main swooshes that you'll see in cloth. You have your Z's, you have your X's. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of an X, kind of like pinching, and then of course you'll get your Y's. You get some Y's going on. So those are the X, Y, Z's is kind of the X, Y, Z cloth. So I'm going to start off with a kind of a Y shape, perhaps. Let's go ahead and bring this fairly low opacity, and I'm going to start off with the X shape, and this is going to come branching from my button, because remember this cloth is pinching, so I'm going to just hit a few of these kind of pinch marks. You can do that all around, really. You don't have to hit them all, but I'm going to hit a couple of these with some kind of pinch marks from where the cushion's being bunched up right at the button area, like so. And now I'm going to come in with a little bit darker color, and I want to draw that darker color, kind of draw on the opposite side of where the bright color is. And that's going to give it that kind of high-low combination we want to see. So the high-low being, you know, it's a piece of fabric that's bunched up, and that fabric has a high point, and the high point is actually casting a shadow on the fabric, so therefore we have that low point. Okay, so there's a few. And now I might also come in here, I might want to paint that a little bit more purple, or magenta, or pink, whatever you want to call it. Because right now it's looking a little bit gray, not as much pink as I want. And I can of course come in here later on and add a whole entire layer, which I probably will. So now I want to also add in, I'm not going to add a lot of these, but I just want to add in a couple of swooshes. So this kind of Y shape. That kind of gives me a little bit of a believability that there's, you know, some fabric being kind of crumpled there. Okay, got that swoosh in there. Might go in for another one, kind of that Z shape this time around. And then I'm going to go ahead and, there you go. Maybe I'll draw one more. Now these can be pretty subtle. Now if it's too noisy, it's going to actually be distracting to the viewer. So right now I'm flirting with that too noisy, but I think it's going to be okay. So now last thing I want to do, like I kind of mentioned, I want to go ahead and make actually a base color. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to move it on top, and I want to make this base color a little bit more kind of pink, and then I'm going to bring down the opacity. I might change that to multiply, or maybe I'll even change this to something like overlay. And now, as you can see, it gives it a little bit more of a vibrant redness to it. Whereas it started looking a little gray, as I was mentioning. Now it's going to start to look a little more vibrant. So I added a new color, made it very vibrant. I then changed the overlay, and I made that overlay about 50% opacity. You can of course adjust all of those to your own taste. So the last part really I'm going to go over is nothing too special. So now there you can see the fabric starting to kind of come along. Now the last thing I want to talk about real quickly is the keys. I want to try to keep in this video, so I'm going to keep it very brief. My mouse is not really behaving today. So the keys, I'm thinking about, okay, you know, really when you're making these keys, you want to think about what exactly are you doing? You know, what are these keys used for? They'll probably be touched a lot on the tops, so therefore the tops will be perhaps a little cleaner because they're kind of constantly being wiped away. Like all the grime is building up on perhaps kind of front sides of the keys. So this is kind of the storytelling that you want to have when working with anything. Really is, you know, what's your story? What are you telling? And this is no different. Is you want to tell a story of how are these keys being handled. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to select I made a black mask. I made black and white spots. We'll see why is this not. Okay, fill. There you go. And I'm just kind of messing around with a few different things. You know, about base kind of the dirt. I want to add some dirt in here so you can see that I have some dirt starting up on the keys. And also I might want to even come in here and do a black key as well. So I'm going to do the black keys for the top there. And with the black keys, I'll also add another mask. And I'm going to select those black keys up there. So this is slowly starting to kind of take shape. But I might come in here again and maybe I'll add in another dirt layer. In this case, I'm just going to make it a little more gray than anything. And then to add black mask, I might come and hand paint the dirt on there. So now, anywhere that I paint will show up this kind of, oops, not, I was going for, here we go. And keep in mind, these are all repeated keys, so you're going to get anything you do to one key, it'll happen to all of them. So I want to bring that down quite a bit. It's just like that, yeah. And I'm going to create a dirt layer too, so paint. Let's go dirt. As you see there, wherever I paint this, I might want to drop this down quite a bit so I can start to paint this. And it might even be easier if I paint this all in here. So I'm going to turn on my wireframe. So I want to think about where is this going to be, are these keys going to be the dirtiest, you know? And that's really what it comes down to when you're creating this, these kinds of storytelling pieces, is where's everything going to be the dirtiest. You might want to you may even want to instead come in here and start to paint, just a straight color on there. Similar to how we did earlier too, So this is just a lot of patience, a lot of layering colors. I think that with those couple materials I showed you, you can really, if taking your time, you can definitely create a very unique look. As you can see here, this took a little bit of time, but I really focus on the lighting, on which direction everything I want to come from. I focus on materials, finding a lot of references, and I think those techniques really can go a long way, and just with a little bit of patience. So in the next video, what we're going to be doing is we are going to take these textures that we have, we're going to export them out, and we are going to be then placing those textures into our Blender scene, in which we'll then light the scene and render out the final, and this will be over maybe one to 2 to 3 videos, but we'll be rendering out the final image that you of the piano that you created.